Hey, ladies and gentlemen, Street Talk and other stuff. Mike Mad Dog Magnati on a Monday morning, and it's a beautiful Monday morning. I know it's raining, but you know what? It ain't snow, okay? I love the rain. Trust me, I love it. I hope it stays forever. But hey, nice to have you here today. Not going to tell any jokes today. I got a serious topic today that's very close to my heart, very important. So I'm going to lighten up on the levity a little bit. But I do want to mention this. There is a Seahawks game tonight at 6 o'clock. I've been out of town for a couple weeks, so I don't know how they're doing. I think they're one game behind L.A. But hey, Seahawks, 6 o'clock. But hey, stick around because I have a real great show for you today. One of my very good friends, a gal named Christina Marie Wright, is going to be here. We're going to be talking about the Me Too movement that's been on social media starting a few weeks ago. If you don't know what that is, you're going to find out. But hey, good show today. Appreciate you being here. So, Street Talk and other stuff, you stick around. We'll be right back.
This is the NCW Life Community Calendar brought to you by LocalTel. Come be a part of the fabulous holiday lighting ceremony where Pybus Market will turn on their holiday Christmas tree lights Friday, November 24. They flip the on switch at 5:45 p.m. sharp. Live music follows from 6 p.m. to 8 p.m. Also at Pybus, the American Red Cross is holding a blood drive in the events room November 27 from 11 a.m. to 3 p.m. For more information, visit ncwlife.com.
If you are looking for dependable car service and repair, visit the good guys at Quick Lube and Tune. They've been keeping cars and trucks in the Wenatchee Valley running smooth for 35 years. Quick Lube and Tune is your hometown shop for a 10-minute oil change, complete tune-ups, alignments, brakes, mufflers, air conditioning service, and more. Get more life out of your vehicle by bringing it to the local guys you can trust at Quick Lube and Tune on South Wenatchee Avenue.
Dear Merry Maids, please clean the kitchen, and the cabinets, and floors, and the chairs. And I wish you could clean the dog. Colin is now feeding himself. Thanks, Megan.
Hi, Megan. No worries. We got it all cleaned up. Let's hope Colin gets past the spaghetti flinging stage soon. Till then, we've got you covered. See you next time. Merry Maids.
Here at Town Chrysler Jeep Dodge Ram, we are motivated to sell you your next vehicle. Whether it's new or used, we have a great selection of all-wheel drives, pickups, sedans, minivans, and muscle cars. With huge rebates and incentives on new and competitive pricing on used, there is no need to go out of town to buy. So here's to a great 2017 here at Town Chrysler Jeep Dodge Ram.
Get a nice surprise today at Town Chrysler Family Store.
Hey, ladies and gentlemen, Street Talk and other stuff. Mike Mad Dog Magnati, and this, I'm very proud to introduce my friend Christina Marie Wright. Christina Marie, how are you? Nice to meet
So
you,
good, thank
girl.
you.
Good. Now, okay, a few weeks ago, those of you on social media or paying other attention to some news sources noticed the Me Too movement, okay? It was a nationwide thing, and if it was a movement prompted with the idea that, I'm going to go ahead and read this, if all women who have been sexually harassed or assaulted wrote Me Too at their status, and this was on Facebook, we might give people some sense of the magnitude of the problem. Now, this is an issue that's very close to me because it's been a big part of my all of my professional life. Early in my 20s, I learned about the magnitude of the sexual abuse of children, which is a significant issue in our society to epidemic proportions, and I've spent a good deal of my professional life working in this area. But as much as I've tried, I still need to be educated, and that's one of the reasons why I asked Christina Marie to be on today, because you have a unique perspective, and I appreciate you being willing and having the courage to come and share that, okay? Because as well, this has been an issue that is very important to you as well, correct?
Yes, correct.
Okay.
Yes.
So why don't you just tell us a little bit about yourself to start off? Because I want people, I mean, this is a good woman to know, okay? I mean, she's a good person, great friend to me.
So I do wear a lot of hats. I'm an author, a blogger on multiple blogging sites. I do mommy blogging. I have a vegan food blog. And most recently, I do have a blog that talks about healing from sexual abuse and speaking out about that. And I'm a mom. I have a bazillion kids at last count, and a lot of kids. And you know, I am also a sexual health educator, which sort of puts me on the front line of some of these issues because you know, our past traumas and experiences definitely inform and shape our current relationship with our own intimacy and with our bodies.
Right.
So I get to, you know, I get to see that from a lot of different perspectives.
Okay, so why don't you also give us your perspective of the magnitude of this issue that we're talking about today, the sexual harassment and sexual abuse of women.
I almost don't feel like I could say it any better than the hashtag #MeToo movement has said. You know, I think that for many people it was really eye-opening to see how many people that they knew who had been sexually abused, sexually assaulted, or sexually harassed. And keep in mind too that the Me Too movement was not just about rape. It wasn't just about molestation. It was also about harassment in the workplace, harassment walking down the street. We see a lot of those things. And I would hazard to guess that just about every woman in America has had an experience like that. It is very far-reaching, and I think it's important too, and I'm sure we'll discuss this, but I think it's important too to remember that it's not just women.
Right.
You know, men and boys and our non-binary friends are also victims of sexual abuse, sexual harassment, and sexual assault.
Okay, now help us now. When you say non-binary, what do you mean by that? Because a lot of people aren't familiar with that term.
So some people don't identify as either primarily male or primarily female, and you know, some just feel that a non-binary, neither this nor that, is a better definition of who they are as far as their gender goes. And
a lot of people misunderstand that concept because they think it's some sort of mental health issue, but many times this is physiological as well. You know, people are born with, you know, genitalia or, you know, sexual apparatus that isn't definitely specific for one gender or the other, correct?
Well, you know, I think that that's probably a topic for another show.
Okay.
And I'm certainly not a medical doctor nor a psychologist. However, I do have people in my world who identify as non-binary, and I respect that, and I try to be sure to acknowledge them.
So I want to be clear, you're not telling me to shut up on this issue, are you?
I think I'm just suggesting maybe you book another show.
Okay, all right, well, actually,
with someone other than myself as the guest.
Kind of in the works, but, okay, all right. You're interested in this issue. Okay.
So I am definitely interested in this issue for a lot of reasons, but I will say this too. I guess I was an early Me Too adopter because almost 4 years ago I started my barbaricyopgirl.com blog, and it was my version of Me Too. I came out and I told my story, and I said, you know, this happened to me and I'm speaking out. I'm not going to be silent about it anymore. Right. And at that time, I also co-founded ListenConspiracy.com with 2 other survivors. And ListenConspiracy.com was a platform for survivors to tell their stories.
Sure.
And we did focus primarily on sexual abuse and sexual assault, not as much on sexual harassment, but it was a platform for individuals, male and female, and non-binary, to tell their stories. So. I've been doing Me Too and helping others Me Too for the last 4 years.
Okay.
Yeah. So we're, you know, I think that my interest is also personal because I have a story to tell.
Sure.
So.
And we'll get into that in a little bit, as much as you want to. But I want to ask you a question. Now, I used to be a sex crimes investigator many years ago. Okay. Back then, the official statistic was that 1 in 4 women would suffer some sort of sexual assault by the time they graduated high school. Now, what I found in my personal experience, because I talked about this issue with, you know, friends, family, that type of thing, probably 85% of the women I talked to and I'm being conservative here, I'm not exaggerating, in casual conversation said, well, something like that happened to me. And very often many of them said, this is the first time I've shared this with somebody. your experience as far as the numbers and the
So-
epidemic nature of this.
Right. So I mentioned that I'm a sexual health educator, and I do presentations for women where we talk about sexual health and intimacy. And I always lead that story or that presentation with an introduction to myself. And I do say that, that this issue is important to me because I'm a sexual abuse survivor.
Right.
And I lead with that because I want women to know and understand that there is hope, and that they may not have a great or positive relationship with their bodies, but there is hope. So I
Sure.
lead with that, and it's I've had that experience. I've had women who have come into my private consultation room and said, "Thank you so much for what you said. I was raped 45 years ago,
Right,
and I
right.
never told anyone."
Right.
So I'm very familiar with that. And so when we hear 1 in 4, 1 in 3, even 1 in 2, it's important to remember that may be not accurate. A lot of survivors don't speak out for a
Yes.
number of reasons that are pretty obvious to me, and I think we can discuss them, today. But don't speak out or don't report. And so when we're looking at statistics, it's largely based on reports to law enforcement, to crisis agencies, and self-reporting
Okay.
for surveys. But not everyone is ready to say "me too."
Well, let me ask you about that, okay? Because that was often a question. Now, when I say ignorance, all that means is lack of knowledge of a specific subject. That's no way to be insulting, but many people are ignorant of this issue. And one of the comments that comes up due to this lack of knowledge is why, if something like this, if you are sexually abused or sexually assaulted, why don't you talk about it? Why don't you go ahead and answer that? Okay?
I can speak to that.
Give us some of
So,
that, okay?
especially when we look
'Cause
at
this one- this is
childhood
important,
abuse.
yeah.
When we look at childhood abuse in particular, there are a number of networks built around perpetrators typically, because
Mm-hmm.
it is almost across the board someone that the child knows. So,
And that's, if I could interrupt.
Yeah.
Of the 85% of women who said something happened to me, 100% of those could say, I can name the
Sure.
person who did it.
Sure, and I think that we really get kind of an overinflated concept of children being stolen off the street and being molested,
Right.
or sexually abused or even murdered, because it is very sensational when it happens because it's so rare.
It's so, exactly. It's
It's
new.
so
I like
rare.
to say it's news because it's new.
Yes,
Right.
exactly. So, so almost across the board, when a child is sexually abused, they're going to know their abuser. In my personal case, it was my teacher, my 6th grade teacher. And so we look at relatives, we look at family members, coaches, people that they might come into contact with, their church groups. It's a sad thing to say, but that's
Oh, no,
that's where we see these
I
perpetrators.
could tell you some stories.
And so because there is that community built around the perpetrator, frequently it's difficult for the child to speak out. Well, number one, the child may not have the language to speak out
Sure.
about what has happened. They may not have the experience. Maybe no one has talked to them about their bodies, let them know that their bodies are theirs, they're personal.
Exactly.
No one should touch you in this way. We talk a lot about stranger danger, but we really need to talk about tricky people, people that
Exactly.
want a child to keep a secret, people who tell a child, this is our secret, don't tell anyone, this is special. People who give a child gifts in exchange for allowing access to the child's body.
Right.
Those are tricky people, and that's the language that we need to focus on. But that community that's built around the perpetrators, frequently it's the church, it's the community members. In my case, it was the school district. And so it's very difficult for children to speak out, especially when they don't have the language to do so. And when they do, a lot of times there's a certain amount of gaslighting that goes on. And for those who don't understand the phrase gaslighting, it's sort of taking a situation where someone has been a victim and implying that maybe they're misunderstanding it or it's all in their head. So, but there's a certain amount of gaslighting that goes on with children victims a lot of times.
Right.
In my case, it was, oh, maybe you misunderstood. Oh, he's just showing you how much he appreciates you. Even after he was caught and confronted by my parent, he said, I never made to make you feel uncomfortable. I just want you to know how special you are. And that language that he used made me, as a child, a 10-year-old child, self-doubt
Right.
enough to where I thought, well, maybe maybe it is me, you know.
Well,
And so there are a lot of insulations built in for perpetrators. There are people who will flat out just not believe that the perpetrator is capable of that.
Right.
So for child victims, it's very difficult for them to speak out then, and they carry that with them through adolescence. They carry that through young adulthood, and it's often not until, and the younger the abuse took place, the longer it takes to work through it.
Right.
Studies have shown, but it's often not until their mid-30s, their 40s, when they realize that those events have informed their present. It has touched every relationship that they've had,
Sure.
whether it's an intimate romantic relationship, their relationship with their children, their relationship with their parents, their siblings, everyone that's close to them. And they may go seek counseling and start working through that, and it's at that time that they may become aware that it wasn't their fault. They
Yeah,
may gain the
exactly.
strength to speak out. And that, I think, is why the Me Too movement is so important, because it gives a community to those survivors, and it's a safe place to speak out. They say that there's safety in numbers, and we've got the numbers. I
Sure.
think that we've established
Yeah,
that.
very much so. You know, you reminded me, you know, this thing about the person's position. It's an abuse of power,
Correct.
you know, and it's abuse of the relationship. But, you know, as far as affecting your life later on, I remember once when I was a detective, I would take, when women who were past the statute of limitations, I couldn't do anything legally about it. But if I took a report from them, they could qualify for counseling through the victim's witness unit of the prosecutor's office. And one gal was in her mid to late 30s, and she had been sexually assaulted by her minister on the day of her confirmation back when she was about 12 years old. And she came in, she says, I just thought I could get past this. It's been negatively affecting my life for a long time. You know, I was able to take a report from her, and she was able to get counseling. I think she's doing okay now. This was quite some time ago. But this is just an experience that is very widespread. So, but hey, got more to talk about, but we need to take a break. But again, my guest today is Christina Marie Wright. We're talking about the Me Too movement, a movement that is bringing attention to the fact that women in unprecedented numbers, and far more than maybe you might have expected, have been sexually assaulted and harassed in our society. And attention to this issue, being willing to talk about it, is what we need to do to empower people to begin to understand the dynamics of this issue, speak out about it, and possibly begin to deal with it in a productive manner. So, Street Talk and other stuff. Mike Mad Dog Magnati, stick around. We'll be right back.
I've been watching Price is Right since I was a little kid.
Price is Right, and I'm like freaking out. It's crazy. We're gonna win big!
Now, here it comes. On stage and in person, The Price is Right. Live. All the games, prizes, and excitement. And now, more winners than ever before. You could even win from your seat. Don't miss your chance to come on down at The Price is Right live stage show.
November 30th, Town Toyota Center. Reserve seats on sale now at towntoyotacenter.com.
Family means something in these parts. Family owned and operated means even more. At Rose Tractor, you're buying more than a product. You're buying years of knowledge through multiple generations. It means you can count on Rose for quality products, quality repairs, and folks who stand behind the products they sell. From your job site to your home, to rentals and repairs, to new outdoor power equipment, Rose Tractor is growing with you throughout the years. Rose Tractor, quality brands you can trust year after year.
At Local Myth Pizza, we believe in real food, freshly prepared with only premium ingredients. Our cheeses are imported from Italy. Our sauces, dressings, and even our sausages are made in-house fresh daily. Featuring Northwest craft beers and 30 Chelan Valley wines and ciders. Family fun and amazing food. Eat local, drink local, and be local at Local Myth Pizza.
Come see why Sunset Magazine says you can't beat Local Myth Pizza.
Ladies and gentlemen, this is State Representative Kerry Condata inviting you to check out our newest show on the NCW Life channel. We call it the 12th District. Each week, we'll be taking an in-depth look at various political issues that affect our area, our state, and the world. We'll be featuring local and statewide experts on the subject matter at hand. Please join us weekly for the 12th District with yours truly, Kerry Condata. Check your channel guide for times or go to ncwlife.com for details.
All right, Street Talk and Other Stuff. Mike Mad Dog Magnetti. I'm here with Christina Marie Wright, my good friend. We're talking about the Me Too movement to bring attention to the issue of women being sexually assaulted and abused and harassed in our society. And I appreciate your courage, Christina Marie, because I'm going to ask you about your story, because you've got one.
I
okay?
do.
So,
I have one. Okay. So, as I mentioned earlier, my story with sexual abuse and assault started at the age of 10. I was sexually abused by my 6th grade teacher, along with my 2 best friends. So it was certainly not an isolated incident.
So he was abusing you as well as these 2 other girls that you're aware of?
Correct. Actually, since adulthood and going back and touching on that experience, I've come to find out that it spanned almost 20 years of his teaching profession. It involved many, many victims. And actually, I graduated from high school in 1992, and that year there was an investigation by OSPI, the Office of the Superintendent of Public Instruction of Washington State, and they were investigating these allegations and claims that had been built up over, as I said, a span of almost 20 years.
About this specific teacher?
About this one teacher. So it wasn't just me and my 2 friends that one year.
Right.
There was someone the year ahead of us, someone the year behind us, kind of just spanning this large. And it's important to know too that our legal system is broken when it comes to sexual abuse and sexual assault. But you know, the prosecution standard is, you know, kind of beyond a reasonable doubt. You know, you have to be able to convince a jury that it definitely happened, and so prosecutors sometimes won't take these cases on, even if there seems to the general public to be an overwhelming amount of evidence. The standard for the Office of the Superintendent of Public Instruction is much lower. You know, it's a preponderance of evidence that says it more likely happened than not. So in their findings of fact and conclusions of law, they detailed a lot of the cases of abuse. And so it is on the record, it's public record, and his teaching certificate was revoked. However, he was never prosecuted as, you know, as a criminal, so he does not have to register as a sex offender. He still lives in my community. He's, you know, currently the business that he has started gives him access to children all the time. And so, you know, he was actually working in his church's youth program for quite some time.
And was the church aware of?
The church was aware of some allegations, and more recently, some fellow survivors and I actually went to the pastor of the church that he now attends and said, you know, look, by allowing this guy to work with the youth, by, you know, allowing this guy to work in community outreach, you're endorsing him. You're giving him the power of the image of being a good guy, and, you know, you may be putting families at risk. Because child sexual predators don't stop.
No, they do not.
Statistically speaking, they don't stop ever. They have hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of victims. They don't stop until they die. That's not to say that I'm not a Christian. I don't believe, you know, that people can't change in Christ, but I do believe that that change comes with repentance, and there hasn't been any.
Okay, and Jesus also said, you'd be as, you know, wise as serpents, okay? I mean, you do not, there's nothing wrong with a church leader going to, and this is something that we've dealt with in our church, going to someone and say, you're welcome here, we love you, God loves you, you're forgiven, but you can't work in our children's program.
Yes. So that's,
there's nothing wrong with that.
And that
okay?
is
That's not judgmental.
That is the tact that his pastor did take.
Did they take that? Great.
So he's no longer working in community outreach. He's been asked to step down from those things, and so I mean, that's just one example, I think, of survivors getting together and making a difference. Right. Yeah. So I mean, we've changed his status, at least within the church, if not within the community, which is, you know, a success. That's a win, I think. So you know, and you mentioned earlier that you know, sexual assault, sexual violence, these things are not. They're not a problem driven by sex and, you know, like romance.
No,
you know, it's definitely about power.
They're power.
I mean, please understand, I was a 10-year-old girl. You know, we hear a lot of times, you know, with the victim blaming, you know, well, you know, what did you expect dressed like that? And, you know, why were you in that situation?
Hogwash,
you know where I was?
okay.
I was in my 6th grade classroom.
Exactly.
You know, I was dressed like a typical 10-year-old girl.
Right.
I didn't have, you know, I wasn't well developed. You know, my class nominated me the president of the Itty Bitty Titty Committee.
Right.
You know how kids are, right? So, I mean, I was not a 10-year-old temptress.
Yeah.
And that has taken a long time for me to understand, you know, through the process of healing, that I didn't do anything to invite that behavior.
Not at all. Not at all.
So that was my experience as a child, and it profoundly affected me, mostly because the principal knew. Parents knew.
Sure.
There were a lot of people who were very aware, not just of the general nebulous allegations, but specifically of my story and my friend's story. And yet we were sent back into that classroom. You know, it was, you know, well, you know how girls are, and you know, sometimes they just don't like a teacher. They want to, you know, cause problems, and so a lot of it was excused by just being, you know, temperamental prepubescent girls.
People just not believing it. Okay, now I don't mean to cut you off, but we need to take a break. We got another commercial break coming back. We'll come back. We'll have about 2 more minutes left, but. Again, talking with Christina Marie Wright, my good friend, very, very courageous woman who I'm very proud to know. But hey, stick around. We'll be right back.
When it comes to tough, versatile workhorses, nothing compares to Kubota's full line of RTV Series utility vehicles. Engineered to last and designed to deliver, Kubota's RTV X Series doesn't just lead the way on rugged dependability, it leads the pack. From big jobs to small projects and daily chores. Choose from America's top-selling family of diesel utility vehicles to help you do it all.
Your Kubota dealer in North Central Washington is Valley Tractor and Equipment in the Baker Flats Industrial Park, East Wenatchee.
The 2017 Ski-Doo Summit sleds. Next generation REV platform. The most powerful two-stroke engine in the industry. For the unmatched handling and power to own the next side hill, the next drop, the next ride. Ski-Doo. What matters is what's next.
The taste of fantastic pizza is found in 3rd generation Pizza and More. The secret? The recipes of success have been handed down through generations, each adding their own special touch. Pizza and More believes in traditions, whether it's supporting the local sporting teams or continuing to serve their pizzas buffet style, dine-in, takeout, or delivery. 3rd generation Pizza and More, a team player in this valley for generations.
Stormy Mountain Brewing and local public house, featuring great family dining in downtown Chelan. We've got burgers, pub fare, and the best barbecue around. Try one of our award-winning sauces made fresh here in-house. So grab the whole gang and come on down. Stormy Mountain Brewing. Beer, barbecue, friends, and beer.
Okay, street talk and other stuff. I'm going to give Christina Marie just a few moments to talk about the healing process, because we think that's important.
Okay, so I think that the healing process is different for everyone. I think that it ultimately begins with speaking out. Once we're ready to tell our stories, I think that that's when healing can finally occur. I mean, even when you look at like 12-step programs, the first step is admitting that you're powerless,
Yeah, exactly.
right? And I think that in many ways we're powerless to what has happened to us. So we feel powerless, and admitting that place is important. So talking about it is important. But for me, I just want to say that, you know, the healing process is long, and sometimes it's 2 steps forward and 1 step back.
It can be lifelong.
And sometimes it's 1 step forward and 3 steps back, and there is a lot of ebb and flow, and it can be lifelong. These things last forever. One of the things that has really helped me to heal has been connecting with other survivors. And also, I've been working very closely with some of the legislators in Washington State to try to eliminate the statute of limitations for sex crimes.
Right.
And that is something that we see as important. We don't believe that perpetrators should be able to wait out the statute of limitations. We believe that they should be never safe from prosecution for these crimes.
And I got to cut you off, but Christina Marie, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay.
Oh, I do want to say just real quick.
Sage
Wenatchee is a great resource for anyone who's in a position of sexual assault, living through sexual abuse. They have resources, advocacy, counseling there.
We'll see you next week. Have a great day. Bye-bye.